And some of these creators that have 400 followers were making content for us that got over 500,000 views.
The story is that you started with $500. Is that a true story? Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the eCommerce Influence Podcast. I am Lily Ackerley, and I'm here today with Jason Wong. And Jason, where are you joining us from today?
I'm in Orange County, California.
Nice. And for people that are watching on YouTube, they can see the nice background behind Jason. It looks very sunny and bright there today.
Can't complain.
Yeah. Cool. So you have a pretty interesting background. I'm super excited to talk to you about and just pick your brain on business and how you've been able to grow several businesses in e-com at this point. And I believe that you started your first e-com business when you were only 15 years old.
Around there, yeah.
Is that true? Yeah, that's pretty cool. And I think so. You've been in business about 10 years now, I'm going to guess. Can you just share?
Yeah.
If you don't have to share your age if you don't want to, but I'd love to hear from you just your story and how you got into e-commerce, kind of what stemmed that first business idea and how you've grown in the several years since then.
Yeah. Funny story too. I'm turning 25 this year. Kind of weird to say it. It's quarter life crisis.
Yes.
So I started around I would say freshman year of high school. And I actually had to borrow my mom's EIN. I was like, Mom, can I start a business under your name? Because I never filed taxes back then. I didn't know what to do. So I had to use her identity. Of course, with her permission, we kind of built that business together. And when I talked to suppliers, they didn't know I was a 15-year-old boy. Hey, looking back, I was just a little boy. But I really had to prove myself in the beginning. And I think that was really what made me want to work harder, is that I have to prove myself and prove to people that age is not a limiting factor on how successful I could be in this business, and that, I too can also do it. So that's number one. Back then, I didn't really knew that e-commerce was the thing that I wanted to do. People didn't really grow up and say, I want to start an e-commerce store. They're like, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be a doctor, or something along those lines, right? And me was leaning towards the doctor route because I want to make money and support my family. And I Google how to make money or what's the best paying job. And doctor and surgeon was definitely top 3 there. So I'm like, I'm going to go to school and become a doctor. But throughout high school, I realized that, my family isn't well off. I definitely need to, hustle. I need to do something. And so I started selling stuff online. I am fluent in Chinese. I was born in Hong Kong. And so I used that to my advantage and started importing little items from China. Back then, it was the iPhone 4S. So I was selling iPhone 4S phone cases and charging cables and portable charging cases. That's when they really came out at that time. And it opened my eyes to the fact that I could make money online. There's money hitting PayPal. And fast forward today, it's now the only thing I do. I live and breathe e-commerce.
Yeah, that's a pretty cool story. And I think you were way ahead of most of us at age 15. I don't think I was considering how to make money. I think I was bussing tables at 15 and thinking that was pretty good. So,
I too. I was like that too. I grew up in restaurants actually. My entire family and extended family worked in restaurants, takeout restaurants. So since I would say 9 years old, I was behind the counters, being a cashier, just observing how business is conducted. So from a very young age, I just had this natural curiosity of how things are done, how transactions are made, and how business is being built. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, there's no way I'm going to do this. I'm going to become a doctor.
Yeah.
But looking back now, I understand why it was very easy for me to pick things up, because I've been watching this for so many years.
Yeah. And you speak to that curiosity. And I think just looking at your track record, that definitely comes across. I think you're involved in multiple businesses. You have your own e-commerce brand. I also think you have several volunteer projects that you're working on. Just based on a quick look at your LinkedIn page, anybody can see that you're a very busy, very motivated person. So can you talk a little bit about how you manage your time and how you make sure that you're avoiding burnout and not getting overwhelmed with all the irons that you have in the fire right now?
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna start off and say that I'm not the perfect role model for this. I do experience a little burnout. I too experience overwhelming like things at times. Like it's a work in progress. So I'm not gonna say follow my structure, but the way that I do it is I follow time blocks. So every week I looked at what I'm supposed to achieve for that specific week, what my responsibilities are, and also like what meetings I have to attend internally and externally. Hiring an assistant was probably the best thing I've ever done,
Yep.
who keeps it in check. I never understood the value of it until like you get to a point where time is becoming a very, very limiting commodity. And then you understand that, you can't just sit around and try to burn off 8 hours of your day. You have to make sure that every single minute of it is being used productively. And that holds very true, especially working across so many different companies. Outside of my own e-commerce store, I'm advising 6 other DTC companies and 3 other SaaS tools, which it's a lot. Like, I'm not gonna pretend and say that it's a walk in the park, but I've been able to manage that by managing expectations with each of these people. Some of them I meet once a month, some I meet once a week, and following the time block and putting some structure in my day and actually prioritizing what I need to do and figuring out what things that is on my plate right now is only able to be done by me, and what things I can do by delegating to someone else that can do it 80%, but not perfect. And just understanding that's the way it is. It's what got me to have somewhat of a normal schedule now. There was a time where I was trying to literally play 9 different positions, and
Can't do it.
it's hard. It's hard. It really weighs down on you. The last thing I'll say on this is that it's a pride thing. Growing up as a solopreneur, I always thought that I am the only person that can do it and I could do it better. But as you become a founder and as you become more involved in things and as you become maybe even a parent down the line, you have to understand that you have to let go. Letting go and understanding how to delegate will be the key to scaling your business and your life. And once I came to accept that, everything unlocked.
Yeah, I think there's an understanding of like, what are you good at and what can someone else do better. And I think you actually might have posted something about this on Twitter this morning, just about making sure that you're hiring people smartly, and thinking about like what's the best role that person's going to play and how are they going to be motivated as well, which I think is really interesting.
Yep.
Cool. I want to start to dive into your current e-commerce project, Business Dough Lashes, a little bit, because I think this is going to be really exciting for a lot of people to hear from. I think you grew to 15 million in 1 year. Is that correct?
In valuation, yes.
Okay. And the story is that you started with $500. Is that a true story?
Yep. Have the
Yeah.
receipt for it too.
That's pretty amazing. So I'd love to hear kind of how you did that and what are your tips for brands that are really bootstrapped and what they can do to scale up profitably if they're feeling a little bit of financial pressure right now.
Yeah. So to get into that, I want to make very clear that I was able to do the $500 brand building framework only because I've built a number of brands in the past and I knew how to save money by taking on the task myself. When you start raising money, a lot of the money that you raise goes put in towards marketing, into hiring, into inventory. So the way that I saved money was I didn't hire anyone in the beginning. I worked by myself for the first 4 or 6 months, and then eventually hiring interns once we had some money. In terms of inventory, I ordered the absolute bare minimum. Like I spent maybe $450, which is like most of the money that I used to start onto inventory, because you literally cannot just make it out of thin air. Well, if you probably could if you do like a pre-sale model, but I needed sampling. I needed things to actually sell and send to influencers. And what I did was, once I placed that very, very small minimum batch of orders, I sent half of them to influencers. This is 3 years ago when influencer marketing was still very prime for free product exchange. Nowadays it's a little bit more difficult. Everyone wants a little bit more money. But I identified the right people to send it to. They just posted out of an exchange for the product. So I didn't really have to spend any money on them besides just sending them the product and the shipping label cost. And then the next thing was marketing, we didn't run any paid ads until 6 months later, until we actually had some traction from the influencer marketing. In terms of hiring, I just did everything. I did my own finances, I built my own stores, I used a free Shopify theme. The other thing that I spent money on was a domain name. You can't cheap out on a domain name. The logo was actually designed on an iPad. It was drawn. A friend drew it for me. So like I was trying to scrap together everything I could to figure out like if I could do this. And I didn't build this business on a $500 budget because that was the only money I had. But I know that that is probably a budget that a lot of people is comfortable starting with. So in a way, I want to prove out this concept that it is possible. And then I eventually use this to start teaching around in at Shopify and at my own class, just to show that you could do it with a fairly low budget if you know how to do certain things yourself and if you know how to be scrappy. But it wasn't easy. And is it repeatable nowadays? I think so. I think it's still repeatable, but it's definitely getting harder and harder as there's more competition in the space.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, well, we all know like paid ads is just a challenge right now. And I think a lot of people are looking to either start if they don't have one already or expand their organic reach. So I know, well, I guess to start, it might be good to give a little bit of information about what Doe Lashes is, because I think it's a beauty brand product. It works really well with influencers. So maybe if you want to give a little description of what the product is and then talk about how you're approaching influencers right now in 2022, just as it's a little bit different. As you said, it's not as much free product exchange. It costs a little bit more money now.
Yeah, so the origin of Doe came almost 3 years ago now when I noticed my girlfriend at the time struggling with putting on her lashes. I just sold my company at that time, so I was just looking for something else to do. Watching her do makeup was one of those things, and I just noticed that she was feeling really uncomfortable when she was wearing the lashes, and when she was trying to put it on, it just seems like a fight. Like you're trying to struggle to put that thing on and make it stay. And I just found that very intriguing. I've never worn lashes in my entire life. But at that moment, I'm like, I want to know what's going on. So out of curiosity, I asked her a bunch of questions, asked her why she was not liking it, what the problems were. And then I went on SurveyMonkey and I created a survey. I did like a 6-question survey of like, have you worn lashes before? What are the pain points that you felt? What are some brands that you bought from? What the budget that you have when buying lashes? And I sent it around to as many friends as I could and get them to get their friends to fill it out. And I got over 100 responses on my survey and figuring out there's actually a lot of common pain points with eyelashes. Number one, they're really heavy on your eyes. Your eyelids doesn't have a lot of muscle and not a lot of skin on it. So anything heavy weights it down, makes you look sleepy. So that was number one. Number two is that lashes were very pokey, so they will poke the inner corners of your eyes. Number two is that they are really expensive. You want to get if you want to get high quality ones, or you can go to the dollar store and get the really cheap ones, but they might fall off in the middle of the day, or they might just look really, really fake. So there's a bunch of pain points that I was like, they don't sound hard to solve. Like they seem quite simple to solve. So I spent the next few months talking to, I think, over 40 suppliers, flying to China, because I was also sourcing for another company at the time, so might as well just be there, and began my search on how to build the perfect pair of eyelashes. And I think I'm pretty confident that I did that now with Doe. Where now the lightest, most comfortable lashes I can wear all day. You can wear it on a roller coaster, you can wear it to cry, you can wear it to sleep. And these are the things that people actually have done and left us a review saying that it worked. Like it what worked through all those things. And it's because we engineered it not like how people usually approach beauty products, but I approach it as a product designer. I approach it as, how do I make a light material? How do I use a soft material? So that's the product side. That's really what we built. But today it's a little bit different. We're now trying to expand into a general eye beauty company. We have plans to launch contact lenses later this year. We have plans to launch lash serum, eye creams, all those things that are around your eyes to really continued our mission to be a comfortable eye product brand rather than just a lash brand. So that's the story of Doe.
Yeah, that's a nice product segue, I think, into some of those things. I'll be curious about contact lenses to see how those come out. Okay, so you've talked a little bit about how you initially started by giving free product to influencers. Can you talk about how you're approaching your influencer strategy today? Maybe specifically how you're finding them, how you're working with them, and how you make sure that you're getting quality content, and that you're not just either paying for things that don't work, or just having people post stuff that feels off brand, because I think that can happen often too.
Yeah, so number one was this observation that people don't have a loyalty to lash brands. Back when we first started, if you asked all those girls that I sent a survey to, the 100 people, there was not really a central like lash brand that they're like, yeah, that's what we use. But if you ask someone what toothpaste they use, most of them are gonna say Colgate, like a good amount of them. But when you ask people about what lash brand they use, they don't really have one that they're loyal to. So that was one thing that was interesting to me. So I was like, okay, if I am confident that I'm building a better product and I just send it to these people that don't have brand loyalty, can I convince them to be big fans of our brand? Because if they can use something that is drastically better than anything that they've ever used, could I convince them to come and try our brand and be and stick to it? So that was the thesis I had. So I went through influencers that post a lot of beauty products, a lot of eye products, like people that post about like tag mascara brands or eyeliner brands, and just send them all these products because I know how they will work when they take pictures of their eyes. Even if they've never worn lashes before, and even if they have worn lashes before, I know that they have a good concentration on the eye area. So I sent them products. I didn't send products to people who take full body pictures because you're never gonna see the pair of lashes there. So that's how I picked influencers number one. Number two was TikTok. I switched our approach from just going after Instagram influencers to doubling down on TikTok influencers, which back in the day no one took seriously. Everyone looked at that platform and said, these are just a bunch of dancing teenagers. They're never going to promote beauty products. But I saw the potential of TikTok because the algorithm is fundamentally different than anything we've ever seen before. It's a platform's algorithm that favors good content over how big of an audience you have. So when you go onto Instagram and you talk to these people, they're like, well, I have 60,000 followers, I want to be paid a certain amount. They already have the set rate in their head that whether or not they're going to work with you, depending on whether or not you're a good brand or if you want to pay them. Whereas on TikTok, I was going after the creators that have 800 followers, like very, very little followers who are just starting out, but I saw potential in their content. Somehow I just have an eye for it, probably because I used to be a creator myself, so I kind of know that there's a certain type of content that if they make has a very high chance of virality. So I went after those people and a large amount of those people. And some of these creators that had 400 followers were making contents for us that got over 500,000 views. You know how much you have to pay for 500,000 views on YouTube or on Instagram? It was enormous, and we didn't have to pay these creators because they're just starting out and they wanted to build their portfolio. So at the end of the day, both sides came out happy. Nowadays, we have a lot of incentive programs that incentivize these creators, and we pay them on a CPM basis. But 3 years ago, we didn't have that. So I think like the takeaway here is like, number one, I looked after influencers who are already creating content within our own niche and space, but not necessarily people who are using our competitors' products. We're going after people who are making stuff for their eyes, because I know that they take really good eye pictures and they're great ambassadors for eye products. Number two is just looking at the platform and identifying people that have potentials and investing in them, rather than going after the really, really large influencers, which we wouldn't have been able to afford in the first place.
Yeah. Interesting. I have a few questions around that. A lot of people want to try to reuse content across channels as much as possible. And so obviously we see a lot of TikTok videos getting posted on Instagram and Facebook right now. So it sounds like you're solely relying on TikTok influencers and not using like the more traditional Instagram influencers. I know there's probably some overlap now. Do you think that's still true, that like really the two types of influencers need to be separate, or are you overlapping a little bit more as kind of Reels has come out and the lines between TikTok and Instagram have blurred a little bit more?
I think they're still quite different. The type of influencers that we go after on Instagram are more beauty influencers. And the type of influencers that we go after on TikTok are a little bit more lifestyle. Like they talk about everything. Some of them make funny skits and they incorporate our product into it. Some of them just do product reviews. Some of them they might just be a student and people like to follow them as their life as a student or their life as a lawyer. And they're like, this is what I'm able to wear all day as a student. This is what I'm able to wear all day as a trial lawyer. Like we're seeing content like that. And you're
Yeah.
only really able to see content with large amount of exposure for this type of niche on TikTok. Whereas on Instagram, we're just going after beauty influencers.
Interesting. So it is really two separate groups. Can you talk a little bit about what your system for content creation with these people is? Like if you're setting up contracts where they are required to do certain number of posts or send you a certain amount of content, or if you're truly just letting them run with creative freedom?
Somewhat of a creative freedom, but I think for most people, they need like a North Star. Here's our process for influencers. Number one is we identify exactly what our goals are for that particular campaign. So we segment our influencer campaign by campaign, not just we're gonna send everything to everyone. So let's just say that I want to do a promotion of our product release, like something that just came out. We will identify around 50 influencers that some of them we've worked before, some of them are new influencers that we want to get exposure to, and we'll add them to the list. We'll actually approach them on a gifting basis rather than on a paid engagement basis to begin with. Our opener for our DM is, hey, can we send you something? No strings attached. We don't ask for anything in return. Just we prepare a PR box for you. Where can we send it to?
Yeah.
Most people aren't gonna say no to, hey, I got you something, where can I send it to? So number one was just getting our stuff in their hands. Most people fail at this step because they start with a very generic line and say, hey Lily, we want to collaborate with you, yada yada yada. They get hundreds of these DMs every single day. They're not gonna open it. So getting through that door was number one. Number two is that after we get it into the hands of these creators, we just tell them why our product is special. And that usually gives them some talking points. We don't tell them, here's a bullet point of stuff you need to talk about. We're just like, I think you guys really like this new stuff we launched. It is softer, it is lighter. You can apply it in a few seconds. Hopefully you like it. Let us know what you think. And these creators would take these things that we tell them and they may or may not post it. And the ones that do post, we monitor how they do. And we pick out 3 or 5 creators that are doing really well on the content that are from the product exchange, and we sign them on for a usually 3-month contract or a 6-month contract where we get recurring content for them. And that's how we curate really good creators out of a gifting program. So you start really big as a top of the funnel approach, right? Get them on a free gifting exchange. That way you as a business don't really lose out on that much money, and that you can actually see how the creator performs for you. Build that relationship with them, go down the funnel, see who works the best for you, and scale it with them. Sign them in on a 3 or 6-month contract and do a discount deal. Hey, if you're charging me $500 per post, how about I sign you on for 6 months, one post per month, and I pay you $350. Creators like this because they get stability. Usually as a creator, you don't really know how much you're gonna make the next day or the next month, but this gives them something predictable, and they're willing to take that discount for something predictable. For you as a business, you're able to get a discount, but also a discount on someone that you know works really well for you.
Interesting. And do you have to restrict them at all? Like, do you ask them not to work with other types of brands or even specific brands, or you just let them do what they want?
We let them do what they want because we don't truthfully pay them enough to be like, hey, don't take any other brand deal. Like if we pay them $500 and another brand wants to pay them $2,000, I'm not gonna be like, it's gonna hurt my feelings if you do that. We have no right to do so. I think as a brand, we want to respect these creators' potential to earn and their business. It is a business for them. So we just have to make sure that we're strategic in building that relationship. And that we're working with them closely, and that they will come to a time where they will come to us before they get a brand deal and say, hey, this other brand is offering me this. Would you like to continue our relationship, rather than just jumping to them? And we're seeing a lot of that happening. People will come to us and say, hey, I actually got this offer from this. Would you like to continue working with me before I take that on? It's only because we keep in very close communication with these people, we built a relationship, we became somewhat of a friend, that they can feel trusting of us to say, hey, there's this other brand trying to poach me. Let's work together more if you want to.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's basic human decency. If you're good to people, they'll be good to you. And I bet that your content is better because people actually enjoy the brand and want to be good to you. So,
That's the second part of influencer marketing. The first part is getting the product to the person, but the second part is making sure that it's a relationship that you're building. It's not always transactional. It's not always black and white. It's not always you send a DM, they get a package, and you never talk again. For you to have a very fruitful influencer campaign that's long term, some of these influencers that we work with have been with us for 3 years, like since when I used to run the program, and it's really because we're caring, we are authentic in the way that we communicate with them. Some of these creators, whenever they have birthdays, we send them gifts. No other brand would do that for small creators unless you're like a Kylie Jenner, right? Like for graduations for some of these creators, they're on the younger side. We send them like a care package, congratulate them. We send them flowers. Like I think you're gonna want to invest a little bit more into this. Obviously, as your business grow, you're not gonna do this when your business first started, but being able to do this and retaining some of our top creators is really what built us that moat around our brand and our relationship so that other brands can't just come in and swoop them.
yeah, that's really cool. What does your internal management of these look? Do you have like one person or multiple people that are managing these relationships? And is there a tool that you're using to track all like their birthdays and anniversaries and all of that kind of stuff?
Yeah. In the beginning, we actually did it all manually on an Excel sheet. But what happened was, this is 3 years ago, I was come to you and said, hey, Lily, I would like to send you something, yada, yada, yada. You give me your address. I copy your address. I go to Shopify, create an order, and then I add your name to an Excel sheet. That entire process takes about like 16 minutes. I timed it. And so I built an automation tool using Airtable. This is not public. We just built it ourselves using no-code tools. We built a form and that we sent to you. Instead of asking you for the address ourselves and copy and pasting it, we sent you a form to fill out, like a type form. This form, once you fill it out, automatically creates an order for you in Shopify. And then we'll also ask questions like your birthday, your preferences, and then it'll build this Excel sheet of all your data. And this data automatically creates the order for you, automatically sends you the tracking number, automatically tells us when the order is delivered. And we're doing this because we can't afford to pay Grin $16,000 a year. Like they charge a good amount of
It's
money.
expensive.
Yeah, if you ever like talk to them, they cost a lot of money. So I'm like, why don't we just build like our own version of it? And so we did. And now that takes about 30 seconds from end to end. And that's how we were able to scale up our influencer program, is because we prioritize efficiency. And whenever we found that things were repetitive, instead of scaling up with more people, we found ways to automate it. And by doing so, we have one social media manager, and then we have an operations manager who's building out these automation processes, and then we have a director of marketing who's overseeing this program. But it's really the influencer person who's doing the outreach, and the operation person building the automations.
Yeah, Airtable is a really amazing tool. We use it as well internally, and you can really do a lot with it for a lot less than some of those platforms that you were talking about. And I think, I mean, automation is definitely key as you scale, but I think also keeping that personal touch, which it sounds like you're able to manage both of those by keeping your data organized. I want to kind of keep going down the TikTok funnel a little bit and just talk about acquisition and kind of where you guys are now. Are you still driving most of your acquisition through organic TikTok, or have you started to need to run some ads to continue to scale up, or what does that look like for you?
Roughly like 25% of our sales come from TikTok organic. We don't spend any money on TikTok ads right now. I'm a firm believer in it, but we just haven't been able to crack it. But I know a lot of my friends who have been. So we're still cracking at it, but we're not really spending too much on TikTok ads. Maybe like a couple thousand a month just to test new creatives. Organic is doing so well for us right now that it's been fine without ads, but we know that ultimately to scale, we do need TikTok ads.
Yeah. So for someone, and I'm going to describe myself here, but for someone who's been like very reliant on Facebook ads as a main acquisition strategy, and it's obviously realized now that that is not going to continue to work and definitely isn't working right now, what would you recommend for someone who's maybe been a little bit hesitant to get onto TikTok organic? Like, what is that first step that they should consider to start promoting their brand there?
Yeah, so TikTok organic, you have to really approach it not like how you approach any other platforms. When you look at platforms like Instagram, it's a visual storefront. Like people can go to it and they see the pretty pictures to shop from. When you go on Twitter, it looks like a bulletin board. When you look on Pinterest, it's a mood board. But when you look at TikTok, really, what is TikTok? It's a new medium that allows the brand to really be themselves and show the true colors and connect with their audience. And you're really seeing authentic content do the best on TikTok. Nothing too polished, nothing serious. Brands can be quirky, they can be funny, they can do silly little trends, but it works because it helps humanize your brands that no other platform that I think have been able to do. Humanizing your brand in this time is so important because there's an influx of brands online trying to grab the attention of the consumer. You're scrolling through hundreds of different ads every single day, but how many of them do you really remember? Now, if you remember brands that do really well on social media, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, it was Wendy's, the sassy girl on the fast food chain on Twitter. And then now you look at TikTok, there's so many other brands that really follow the same playbook. A good example would be Duolingo, the language learning app. They have amassed millions of followers on TikTok, not even talking about their products, but showing how their office is working, showing their teams together, like really showing people the behind the scene action of the brand. And that is something that you just haven't been able to see done successfully on any other platform. So the first advice on TikTok is understanding who your brand is, what's your language, like what's your tone, and how do you communicate that to your audience. Like setting the tone and the persona is number one, really important. Number two is understand what is that side of your business that you really want to explain to your customers that they just can't see elsewhere. We're making TikTok videos of us packing our orders, sometimes writing notes to our customers. Like you will not see that on an email or on a Facebook ad or on an Instagram post, but we're able to show that on TikTok. So being very authentic and transparent in what we do. Doing a lot of storytelling. We did a storytelling TikTok of how we almost didn't make it into a certain retailer, and people really resonated with that because they're like, oh, I didn't know that you had to follow certain packing instructions and you didn't do that, or like labeling guidelines. They were so fascinated with how the business is built that in a way they felt like they were participating in the brand. They felt like they're a part of us building this brand because we're doing so in public. And in doing so, they feel more connected. They're more likely to buy because when they're on that checkout page, they're like, wow, I understand who's making this, who's packing these orders, and the struggles that they went through to get to this point. I am more inclined to support them than just seeing a normal Facebook ad with a really catchy sound that got me to click, but don't really have that emotional attachment to it. That's really the key thing to approaching TikTok compared to approaching Facebook.
Yeah. I think that's super smart and just right on point with what we're seeing in general in e-commerce right now is that shoppers, there's just so many options that they're going to pick the ones that they resonate with the most. Have you kind of in your storytelling, are you trying out the new 10-minute videos and have you seen any difference in performance in those, or are you still kind of running shorter videos, or do you think it doesn't matter?
We're still doing shorter videos. Truthfully, I don't know if we have much planned for the 10-minute video just because it kind of goes against
Yeah.
what we know consumer actually uses right now. I think 10-minute video, it's a format that they're just gonna try, but no one has any data to validate that it will work. It goes against how people's browsing behaviors are right now. People are looking for shorter content. That's why they like to retweet instead of medium posts. This is why they want to send Snapchat instead of doing like FaceTimes, because they want to do very short form communications. And that's why they like TikTok so much instead of watching Facebook videos, which is the great thing back in the day, but now it's all short form. So when you come back to me on like a 10-minute video format, I'm just thinking like, I don't know. It goes against everything that we've worked towards. But I'm open to being wrong. I would love to be wrong. Like if it works, I would like to adapt to it fast. But right now, we don't really have plans.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. I feel like it's kind of a play to compete with YouTube a little bit, but it does feel completely against what TikTok has built. One last question kind of on TikTok and how you're keeping track of all of this is how are you keeping track of people coming from TikTok to your website, and how are you managing that? Are there other, like, do you have an SEO strategy to make sure you're capturing people that might search something that was in a video, or what does that funnel look like to ensure that you're getting people from your organic TikTok to your website and ultimately purchasing?
Yeah, lots of end-to-end tracking, but nothing's ever perfect when it comes from a social media platform because the attribution, especially the tracking techniques right now, is so vague with
Yeah.
all the changes, and you gotta hear this all the time, right? On our TikTok bio, we have a UTM link, so if they go through our UTM links, we'll see it in GA. That's the bare minimum. But we've also done a lot of efforts on the SEO front so that when people do Google us, we're always top of the page. We know the products that we're featuring, and we try to make sure that we are ranking high up for all the products that we feature. And we also have a number of articles that we work to get that talks about dough and TikTok. So whenever you search dough lashes in TikTok, we're always top of the page. So just doing these as a defense so that other brands with similar name products or similar products cannot grab our visitors. Thirdly is we have a post-purchase survey. So if they do end up going through our entire product journey and they do check out, we will ask them where did they hear about us from. And that's usually a more accurate representation of who's coming onto our website and who's and where they heard about us from. We'll be like, did you hear about us from TikTok, Facebook, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
And I will regularly do polls, like, have you seen us on TikTok? And we'll do that on Instagram just to see like how many of our audience overlaps with our TikTok audience. So we do like a number of these
That's
things,
interesting.
but like there's really no perfect attribution tool. I wish there is, but with how things are right now, I doubt it.
Yeah, there never will be a perfect tool, I don't think, but I do. SEO, I think, is really interesting right now. I feel like a lot of ecom brands that did grow on Facebook just completely ignored their SEO strategy because they didn't really need it. Has that been an integral part of your marketing since the beginning, or is that something that evolved over time?
As soon as we could, we hop onto SEO. As soon as we could afford to. We have an amazing SEO agency who I'm happy to recommend if anyone comes to me, DM me or whatever. Happy to give you our SEO agency. But we've been working with them for over 2.5 years now, and they get us ranked #1 for a lot of important keywords, which helps a lot because a lot of people that come on to our brand through social media actually comes through Googling. Believe it or not, even though if they see us on Instagram or they see us in an influencer video, especially in the beauty space, they look for reviews. So they'll say, Doe Lashes review of X products. And we make sure to capture our visitors in every single point of that search query.
Interesting. And are you also running Google ads? Like, is that a part of your paid acquisition strategy?
Yep, absolutely.
Cool. So I guess kind of rounding out this acquisition conversation, and you can answer this in any way that you want, but what do you see as the future of acquisition? I know people are obviously going to have to be a lot more creative. I don't think just popping up an ad and driving a ton of traffic is ever going to happen again. So what do you think? Is it going to be one channel? Is it going to be a mix? What is that going to look like?
I'm gonna go out of a limb and talk more on like evergreen stuff, like things that really, really will be hard to change. Content and SEO, I think, will be the backbone of building a DTC company. Of course, you can do paid ads and you can get your name out there, but those ROAS are going to keep dipping, and they'll dip and they'll wash out a lot of key players in the space. But if you do an amazing job on SEO and content, you'll have a much better defense against a lot of these volatility. So investing in a lot of content, so content creators on YouTube, because YouTube videos are prioritized by Google because they're owned by the same company, that you should do a lot more product review videos, introduction videos on YouTube, just so that you have that little section. on the search page. Second thing is making sure you make a lot of content around your product, your brand, your story, so that people who are looking at similar products or looking up your brand, they feel that connection with you and they're more likely to go through the purchase. Your website and copy will definitely need to be straightened, just because so many people are building similar products now. There's 2,000 plus other lash brands. You really have to make sure that you have to copy to convert them. When you think about how many people come onto your website every single day and how many of them actually convert, like 1 to 2%, just doing all those things will allow you to double your conversion rate if you could, and that's double your revenue. Like, these are very small changes that can drastically change your business. Now let's talk about like acquisition, because a lot of these things are defense and some of them are acquisition. I would say acquisition will change from page to page, platform to platform. There was a time when it was Facebook, there was a time when it was Instagram, and then there will be a time when TikTok was something in the past and it just won't work anymore. So be very up to date with where your customers are and try to attack on that platform as soon as you can. I still think we have a lot of legs left on TikTok. It's definitely not the glory days like it was a year or two ago, but there's still so much you can do on TikTok. And I've seen business literally transform overnight by taking advantage of that. The other thing is trying to think about how do you get your existing customers to acquire more customers. That's the age-old acquisition tactic that I think will always and always work. Referral program, if done properly, has a tremendous amount of return on your business and a much lower CPA. When you think about how much you're paying your customers right now to refer their friends, some companies give them 20% off, or some people give them $10 off, and their CPA on Facebook is 40 some dollars. Like, why are you cheaping out on a referral from a very high intent audience when you're paying Facebook so much money for low intent customers? We're seeing higher LTVs from referrals compared to customers that came through from these paid channels, because referrals usually have a friend who also uses product, who then talks about with them, who's then reminding them to be like, oh, actually I need to go grab another box now that you reminded me, right? Like, these are people who are really precious and you need to go after, and that is, I think, an important acquisition channel that people aren't really taking advantage of.
That's really smart. Are you doing kind of a referral and loyalty program, or are you strictly doing referrals?
Both. We use this app called Smile Rewards. You can refer your friends, set CPAs, but there's also ways to boost it up. So we built a really good section in all our emails that tells people that they can refer their friend. So every single email that gets sent out has a little refer a friend section that prompts people to refer their friend with a simple copy link. Most people's referral program, in my opinion, is very hard to get through. There's like 6 different steps they have to click in order to even get the link to refer a friend. And so we try to make it as easy as possible. So blending customer experience and your user interface of the medium that you're talking to your customers and a really good affiliate program is the key to scaling that up. We're seeing consistently thousands of dollars every single month from referral customers that were previously non-existent because we made it easier for them to refer a friend.
Smart. Cool. I want to start to kind of wrap up our conversation and be mindful of time. If people want to follow up with you or find you, where are you in the world of the internet?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at Agro and on Instagram at Pug, Pug, like the dog. I'm very responsive to DMs actually, unless you ask me like something like, hey. But if you ask questions, I'm always happy to answer all my DMs. I like to help. I like to teach. I teach a free class on Shopify too if you guys want to learn about products. But yeah, I'm an open book, so happy to answer questions if you guys have questions after this podcast.
Cool. Yeah, we'll link those in the show notes, and I'll link your Shopify training in there too for people. All right, last question for you, completely open-ended, but what are you most excited about right now in the world? It can be e-commerce or not related. Where are you spending a lot of your brainstorming and creative energy?
Personalization. I think that's a word you guys see a lot more in the coming years. Zero-party data and personalization is the 2 things I'm betting heavy on. I think consumers, with so many choices around the space now, they want to feel special. They want to know that when they're buying something, they're actually buying the right thing. So I think we're going to see a lot more technology coming up to serve that interest. to help people shop better, to help people shop with more confidence, and to emulate that experience of in-store shopping but online as much as possible. That's what I'm excited about. I love technology, and seeing the two worlds blend together is what gets me up in the morning.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of I think people are a little bit scared and a little bit, cautiously optimistic right now, but I think you're right. We're only going to see technology continue to support and get more creative, and the people who take advantage of that will be the ones that rise above. So cool, Jason, this has been a super interesting conversation. Is there anything else that you want to share or say before we round out?
Yes, one last thing is, if you're thinking about starting a business, and you've been thinking about that for years now, just start. If you don't look back at what you've built and cringe a little bit, then you most likely started too late. So I've talked to so many people who listen to tons of podcasts, watch a ton of video, and then they just never do it because of the what ifs. My advice is to just start, give it a try, start small, but just start, and hopefully you can succeed.
It's great advice. Yeah. Thank you.